Have you ever walked into a store, picked up a cool little knickknack, looked at the price and went, never mind? By the way, this happens exponentially more often if you're as frugal as me. And sometimes the thing that you're looking at looks like something that you could make with stuff that you already own. And so for this video, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make 3 things I've seen in stores with stuff that I mostly already own. Hi, my name is Emily, and I don't like spending money. Anything to say? So I actually have quite a collection of small framed things. This one, all of these embroidered ones. This one that I got from a local artist. This one, and this one, which was about $4 or $5 at a thrift store, which is a lot of money for a secondhand item, but it is in fact hand painted. And I wanted to add this itty bitty framed tree drawing to my collection, except that I didn't want to spend $2 on it. I mean, I know $2 is not even in the vicinity of expensive, and if this were a hand-drawn tree, I would have been okay with that price. But it was a print at a thrift store, so the recession core grandma inside me seized me by the collar and said, we can do this ourselves. But I did buy this little octagonal frame that was right beside the tree for 50 cents. And also all those other frames, but don't worry about it. In the spirit of using things I already owned, I dug out some fancy watercolor paper samples that I got for free at an art competition, and also my geriatric ink set that my sister handed down to me for school. Actually, I can't remember if she gave it to me or I just took it. Either way, it was free. And then I very carefully removed the ink bottle from its tomb. This one clearly completely dried up. Yes. It's actually been so long since I used these fancy ink pens. I hope I don't mess anything up. Ugh. Unfortunately, I did notice that the ink was in a consistency that I'm pretty sure it wasn't supposed to be in. It was very blobby and coagulated. If I water it down a bit, it does still work, but it doesn't flow all that well. Still though, I went ahead with the drawing. I wonder if these are leaves or bats. I think they're leaves. Because the nib was quite skinny and scratchy, and like I said before, the ink was not in a good state, I did have to use a brush for the trunk. For the background, I watered down some of that ink. Unfortunately, this caused the ink to smudge and the tree became a smeary mess. I think I either didn't wait long enough for the tree ink to dry, or the ink just wasn't meant to be layered like this. Either way, I'm going to cut out another one of this octagonal paper and do the background first and then ink the tree. Hopefully that'll have better results. So my phone was running out of battery, so I did this one off screen. And I used micron pens instead of the nibbed pen because the ink was just still very gloopy and gross to work with. And I think it's better than the first one, but when I compare it to the original, I think the tree is just too dark and too crisp. So tomorrow I'm going to quiet. So tomorrow I'm going to try using pencil instead and see if that gives it a more old-timey, aged look. So the next day I broke out my pencil set and began the process yet again. I really love how this turned out. I love the texture on the tree, and I love how faded it is compared to the ink ones. It just looks so much more like it survived being on the earth for decades. Now let's try putting it in the frame. And yes, I'm going to seal this, don't worry. It's just that I want to make sure it looks good first. Yes, I love it. Just for fun, I'm gonna try putting the other ones in the frame as well. I mean, it's not bad. I just don't like how stark the contrast between the colors is. Yeah, this one is straight up not good. That is the smallest signature I've ever done. I'm pretty sure it is not even legible. This should be hidden beneath the frame so you won't see it, but if anyone were to take it out of the frame in the future, you probably won't be able to tell who drew it, but they will know when it was drawn, so that's good. Alright, time to go spritz this with some sealer. And with that, the first project was done. Before I show you the final look, however, let me explain my next idea. If you follow me on Instagram, you might know that I've been trying to get more into art markets and tabling. And to prove that I'm taking it seriously, I thought I should make my setup look more professional. Or at least I should get a table banner. And table banners locally can cost, excuse the voiceover, but $36. And in this case, I'm not trying to say that it's like an exorbitant, unattainable price or anything, because I know I'm not just paying for the material, I'm also paying for the service. However, as a newbie, self-employed artist, I want to be careful about where I'm putting my money, so I'm just gonna make my own. Milo, you got something to say? Oh, okay, don't do that. The original plan was to make one of those giant ones with a picture on it, except I was going to quilt it and make my little face out of fabric. Obviously, I'd put my name somewhere on there, but that was the plan. But given that the event is this Saturday, which is, let me do the math, Thursday, 3 days away, I don't think I would have enough time to do this. So I was thinking maybe I could do a string of smaller banners instead, spelling out my name, and if I have time, I can do the little picture icon in the middle. And my tablecloth itself is already pretty extra, so for the banners, it's gonna have to be pretty simple in color, at least for the backing fabric itself. And for that, I have dug out, once again, this beige bedsheet thing. This is the headrest from my chair video, and I'm sure the other chair pieces are here as well. For the letters inside, I'm going to print out some templates from my computer and then possibly use some of this felt. I know I said I shouldn't go too extra with the lettering because the tablecloth is already pretty extra. I don't have it here for reference, but look at my bedsheet and it's something like that. I haven't really decided what shape I want the banners to be either. In the pictures, they were rectangular. I was thinking I could do triangular again. I don't know. We'll experiment and find out. Oh, this one has a penguin on it. I could do a rainbow of colors because the background color is already pretty simple and solid. Maybe I could get away with this. If you can hear sawing outside, I'm very sorry. I have a lot of this red. Maybe that will be enough. Red and something alternating colors I feel like would be a good combo. Definitely not white. But I have so much white. But this is such an ugly shade of white. Nope. Not enough of this. Starting to run out of options. Pink? No, I don't like that. No, still too extra. Gotta do some thinking. In the end, I decided to forego the beige fabric and use the crimson felt as the base. But since the crimson would blend in with my tablecloth, I thought about adding some trim. Maybe this is a little too opulent. So because I wasn't exactly happy with any of my options, I went downstairs and dug out some trim. This gold sequin strand. I'm not really sure how to describe this, but looks fancy. Also these, but they're probably a little too sparkly. Since I was in a bit of decision paralysis, I decided to do the simple thing and cut out 8 pieces of felt for the banner bases. Before I make any concrete decisions on which trim I'm gonna use and what color I'm gonna use for the lettering, I'm gonna go to the thrift store tomorrow and see if they have any options for me. Remember when I said I wasn't going to use this sparkly ribbon because it was too sparkly? Well, I decided to give it a try anyway, and honestly, it looks kinda cool. And the best part is, this ribbon is self-adhering. And also, obviously, one roll of this is not going to be enough to cover all of them. That means I could alternate using all of these colors, and then for the letters, I could probably use these too. Speaking of art events, it really is just so rude for my printer to decide to die right as I needed to print a bunch of merch and stuff. So I sold out. I mean, I print very small amounts of stuff, so they sell out pretty easily, but I sold out of a few prints and stickers, and now I can't restock them because my printer refuses to print. So I definitely have enough ribbon left for the lettering. Instead of using the corresponding colors, I'm going to reverse order them. I know the way that this is positioned makes it look like it says emcwchen, but that's not how you pronounce it. It's actually like this. So it's Emmy, which is my name, and éclat, which is a French word meaning a brilliant display. So think of a chocolate eclair. So together, it's Emmy éclat. You're not supposed to pronounce the T, parce que c'est français. Ooh, by the way, I don't mind if you pronounce it a different way. I just wanted to drop some lore on my username since historically there's been some confusion about it. Anyway, now I am sewing a channel across the top of each banner. I really love this color combo. I'm really glad I went with the crimson and the multicolored sparkly side ribbons. And then I was thinking maybe I should just maybe clean my room. Clean enough? No, Milo, don't leave! Aside from the table banner, I also wanted to up my tabletop display. And for that, I did acquire a little 7-tiered nail polish rack for my stickers. And I also wanted to make a new display for my book. I've never talked about it on this channel before, but last year I self-published my own book, and I get really awkward about it whenever I have to explain to my friends what it's about. So you can imagine how much more awkward it is if I have to explain to strangers what my book is about. And in the past, I had a tiny little sign that kind of explained what the book was about. This time, I thought it might be fun and even more informative to also have, you know, those like Instagram graphics where they have tropes and plot things, like a little mind map around the book. I was thinking maybe we could do something like that so that at a first glance, people can more easily tell what the book is about. And obviously, if you want to know more, you can just pick up the book and read the blurb on the back. I'm gonna brainstorm what I should write in those bubbles. So here's a mock-up. Here's some things I may write. I'm not gonna do all of them because like Canadian, like that doesn't really tell you anything about the book. I was going to print it on some cardstock so that it looks more polished than if I hand wrote it. The problem is my printer is kind of broken right now, so that's unfortunate. We're going to be using cardstock and crayon, like we're in kindergarten. I feel like I don't need to go too in-depth into this, so here's just a short little montage. I feel like 5-year-old me must have had really muscular wrists because this is hard work. So I think we need one more over here. Before I show you how these looked on my table, let's move on to the last thing I wanted to make for this video, which I've had saved in my camera roll since February, is this pincushion I saw in Value Village. I never thought a pincushion could be this extravagant, so this opened my brain to a whole new world. But sorry if I didn't want to spend $5.99 plus tax on it. It is made out of some kind of jar lid. Not some kind of jar lid, it is a jar lid. So that's what I'm gonna acquire. I have acquired, let me zoom the camera back a little, this jar that's missing a top, and this was only 50 cents. I also have this random lid thing I found in my house, and for the top velvety part itself, I'm using a bit of leftover green mossy fabric from my chair makeover. So the plan is to insert this random lid into the fabric, sew most of it together, stuff it with stuffing, and then put it in here like so. This would be convex once I stuff it. And then we'll decorate the sides with some fancy trim. Also, yesterday I did go to the thrift store, even though I didn't actually need any more trim, but I went anyway just for fun, and I found Shadow, or I guess more accurately it's Sonic. I also found some tassel trim, and of course it was after I needed it for my previous video. So anyway, I began by cutting out some circles. I decided the best course of action was trimming down the bottom piece closer to the size of the lid and running a gathering stitch along the top piece to give it a bubble-like shape, after which it could fit pretty snugly over the lid. Definitely needs to be more taut. Obviously I would need more stuffing, but it would look kind of like this. To stuff it, I used some fabric scraps I just produced and a handful of polyfill. This is a little too protruding. Let me try stabbing a pin into it. Oh! I think it works though. It will just be a very tall pin cushion. Instead of sewing the circles together though, I decided it would be easier to use E6000. I mean, it definitely worked, but I did have to spend a while just holding everything in place while it dried. Okay, I think it's mostly dry now, so I'm going to glue this onto the base piece and then fold up the edges, and then once that's sufficiently dried, I'll put the ring back on and then tuck all the loose fabric inside. Look at this lump. I'm gonna apply some glue on the inner rim and then just like... And once again, I just hold this until it dries. Now, tried as I may, I am chronically unable to find fancy gold trim in the thrift store, so we're just gonna have to use what we already have. Let's go look for some trim. This pearly string looks like it might be too unravelly to use. Let's try it out. Since the thin pearl garland is the only one I'm very sure about, I'm gonna go ahead and put that on first. I wasn't happy with any of the trim options. The gold pearly one is by far my favorite for its gaudiness, but it covered up too much of the jar lid, which I wanted to still remain visible, so I went on a search for more bits and bobs. A ton of these green rhinestones. A bag of bangles. See, these golden ones, they look very promising, but I don't know if they'll fit on my jar lid. Keep my jewelry safe, Shadow. I'm gonna go get my pincushion. And unfortunately they don't fit, which is really sad because look how fancy these are. So ornate. In the end, I decided to use these green rhinestones, which, fun fact, came from a bracelet I got at a garage sale probably more than 10 years ago. And I really hope it isn't some silver-plated antique jewelry from the olden ages or something, because here I am using it for arts and crafts. I'm actually shocked by how fancy this looks, but I'm gonna save most of this for the final reveal. See you guys later! Never make it as a vlogger because I'm too embarrassed to film anything and my phone is running out of memory. feel like I don't really have much to say in terms of wrapping up. I'm just really happy with how all of these came out. I did have to sew down the ribbon a bit more because after the con I realized this part that was folded over became unfolded. And let me tell you, hand sewing this adhesive ribbon down was very not fun. But other than that, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope Milo doesn't try to eat the ribbon. Alright, see you guys next time. Bye!